and welcome back to my channel. I'm Rebecca Robeson, interior designer here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Today I have another episode for you. It's one of the top 10 most common mistakes that I see people make in their homes. Perhaps maybe even you are making some of these mistakes. Are your cords showing too high? Like I told you, this is going to be a controversial video. Today's video is going to be so great because it's actually not one that I had originally planned to do. It's one that I saw once I started getting all the submissions from you guys. Let me just stop here for a second and say thank you so much. Those of you, there's been over 300 people who have sent me photos of their home, and that's what I'm able to use in this series, which makes it way more relatable to you guys. These are everyday people's homes, and they're allowing me to take a look at them and show them to you and point out their mistakes. I did not expect to see this as a mistake in people's homes. In fact, it's the most common mistake I've seen in all of these submissions. And I know that this is going to be a controversial video. It's going to be kind of like a he said, she said. You know what I mean? Okay, I'm not going to make the mistake, the politically incorrect mistake of saying the men are the ones that want the bigger televisions, but you know it's true, right? I mean, come on. Leave me a comment below and let me know. If you're a woman, are you the one that wants to have the larger television, or is it your partner or spouse? I would just be curious to know, because I think it's a he said, she said. Mistake number one, when a television is off center of the available space on the wall. Stop and think about it. Usually a television ends up being a focal point in a room. So if you want to have a focal point that looks right, you want to center your television in the available space. Let's take a look at some of the fan submission photos. I think Pamela's family room or living room, whichever room this is, it perfectly illustrates the issue of a television being off center. So the TV is not centered in the wall, nor is the piece of furniture under it, and nor is this. It's all kind of just a little kittywampus. And I think, Pamela, if you were to take this piece of furniture here and slide it over, maybe about to here, I'm guessing that's about 8 inches, then place your TV dead center, then move this piece, this mirror, centered over that, you'll have this all lined up and it'll look really, really nice. Now, here's what I appreciate, and I'm not even sure Lucia knows that she did this, but when I look at this as a photo, do you see this? Right here, the fact that her chandelier is pretty much lined up with the top of her television. That to me feels right. So there's something about this wall that looks good to me, but what I do notice is that this television could easily have been moved over to line up in the center of this cabinet, and I think it would look better. In Beth's bedroom, she has also an issue of not having her television centered over her fireplace. This is also a very high, but you can see kind of why she did it because she's got a lot of space up here above the fireplace. But a fireplace is a focal point, and so is your television. So when you put the television right above the fireplace, try to set it in the middle. But here's something else that I noticed with Beth's situation, why she didn't do that in the first place. My guess is her bathroom is on the other side of this wall, but it has an interesting cutout. I'm gonna guess that this house was built in the 90s when they did a lot of that, just a guess. But this cutout right here has prevented her from putting that television dead center over the fireplace. If this were my home, or if Beth had contacted me to be her designer, I would have said, you know what, Beth, let's cover that up. Let's just drywall over that and give you a perpendicular, solid wall with which to put your television where it should be. Mistake number two is proportion. I thought this would be a good example for you to see. You see the size of my TV. I believe this is a 65-inch. Below it, I have a large piece of furniture that grounds it, that gives it a base. And when you stop and think that where your television is often a focal point in your room, you're gonna want it to feel balanced. This is actually a very, very nice living room. I love her fireplace. Her window treatments are perfect, right on. Perfect job, Sandy. You get an A on that. And I actually like how she balanced out on either side of her television. But this is a common mistake I see a lot of people do, and that is whatever's underneath of the TV is smaller than the television itself. My suggestion would be to get a larger piece of furniture. Take a look at this and imagine this coming across here and being larger. It would not only connect these shelves, but it would fill in that wall beautifully. I do love what you're watching on television, by the way, Sandy. Good choice. Does anyone see the proportion of the size of the TV versus the size of those cubbies? My recommendation would be go back to IKEA, get one more set of cubbies and run that across the wall by creating that longer credenza kind of look underneath. You're going to have a better proportion to your wall and to your television. Not to mention, you're going to have more places to put things. Perfect for storage. All right, Christy, that would be my suggestion to you. Now I'm going to show you something interesting. I'm about to show you Ghazala's living room. The fireplace is smaller than the television size. So she has that proportion issue of top heavy, smaller on the bottom. In order for it to feel right, if it was larger on the bottom, that would look great. But what do you do when, I'm sorry, you can't make your fireplace bigger, can you? Well, let me show you what I did. Can you see now the comparison between the two? Do you look at that and think, yes, that does look better. Having this wider on the bottom and then tapering in a little on the top is smart. Look at the difference, okay? Do you know what I did here, Ghazala? I painted your stone on your fireplace. It just so happens that your fireplace itself reads very black. If you were to add some paint, you might need to, you probably actually, look, you don't really even need to increase the size of your mantle. It would fit. So you go along the outsides of your mantle, paint that black, and make sure that your TV is centered right in the middle. And voila, problem solved. Now let's take a look at Anne's place. She actually has, her television is smaller than the piece of furniture right here, but it spans a good size wall, and then she has a shelf above it. And as I sat there and I sort of looked it over, and I was just like, what is it that's bothering me? She's got the larger base. Well, I think it's this shelf right here. I think that shelf is throwing me off, as well as essentially the size of this cabinet, even though it's larger than the TV, it's not that much larger than these pieces here. So I looked around in her room, here's another view of it, and I saw this piece. Now this is like a chest of drawers. I am going to suggest that you take this chest of drawers and you put it over on the television wall and put your television right above that. That is going to take up more height in the room, which will look so much better with your furniture here. Then take your smaller piece, put it here. You can put your shelf above it. You can even have things sitting on the smaller piece below. And then you create more of an art arrangement here in the entry while you have something better and more substantial over here. So imagine this is a higher piece of furniture. Your television is up there, it takes more space. I also think this looks great that she has these two lamps, but if you do a larger piece here, you might want to replace this or move this piece of furniture. And in my opinion, it would look amazing if you did the larger chest, the television, and then do two floor lamps on either side of that piece of furniture. You will create a wow focal point in your living room. And I take a look at the size of this wall, and I'm gonna guess that this wall is about, it's about 4 3/4 on my little measuring thing. If I look around on the other side, this wall is 4, so it's a little bit narrower. I would suggest, if I was at your house with you right now, I'd say, come on, let's move the furniture around and see. So here's my thought. What if you moved your sofa over to this wall? It went this way and out this way, and then these two chairs over here. It would be a very welcoming entry because it's not the back of a sofa. You're walking into the two chairs. You have your sofa on this wall, your coffee table, your area rug looks great, your window treatments look awesome, by the way. On this side, on a little bit smaller wall, get yourself a longer, more substantial piece of furniture and put your television on top of that. You could put bookcases on either side if you want to, or something that creates a focal point. If you do this wall well, because look at all these window treatments. I mean, that looks amazing, and you should do it over here as well too. That's just a freebie. I think that this would create a great focal point wall. It'd be a lovely entry into your living room, and I'd be very curious to see how that looks. And at the very least, just get a bigger piece of furniture down here, or get one more of these and put them side by side. Do you know what I'm talking about when I say that? Let me give you an example. Here's an example of how I did this in my son's apartment. Gosh, this was so many years ago. It was probably 10 years ago. When Scott lived in Chicago, we got him 2 of these large chests of drawers from IKEA, butted them together, and then hung the television above it. Now we've created like this incredible first impression, it's almost like a built-in, but it's a hack built-in. Now let me show you, those 2 same pieces of furniture are now in Scott's apartment or condo in San Diego. What do they have differently now? They have a much larger television. Well, guess what? You could have a huge television with these 2 pieces underneath of it. Not only that, it gives them so much storage. Number 3, is your television an island unto itself? I sometimes call it the lone island. It's all by itself. There's nothing underneath of it. It's just hung on the wall. She has a nice television. It's not too big, but it is what I would call a lone island. It's an island unto itself. For me personally, I prefer to have something around the TV or underneath of the television, as we've just discussed, the right size, of course. But when you have a television that's hung on the wall and it's completely alone, it does look a little out of place, doesn't it? So, in my opinion, this would be, I wouldn't call it a mistake, I would call it an opportunity. And Des, look at you. Look who you have on your television. Making points there. So this is actually kind of covers a couple of different things. One, I feel like this television, for the amount of wall space, is really quite large. However, if it was just moved over to the center, and I think I see here now, actually for the first time, why you did that. You have a light switch, don't you? So here's what I would do for you, and I think this would really be helpful, Des. I would call an electrician, I would have that light switch moved over, and then I would center the television on the wall. So many things that people do, they don't realize that the fix is actually quite simple. It may cost you $100, but for $100, wouldn't it be nice to not have to look at your television looking like it's about to go out the front door? So I would move that over, center it on this wall, and in fact, if it was my house, I would probably put it right on the fireplace. But I'm guessing maybe you guys don't want to put a hole in your stone. Just do it. Just do it, Des. It would look so much better. And trust me, I would feel much better on the face of your fireplace than I would on that little wall, about ready to go out the door. Okay. This guy's name is Drew, and his channel name is Lone Fox. In his living room, he put a television on an easel. The thing I love about Drew's videos is he does a lot of his own design work himself. So it's super relatable. I think you guys will love his channel. I would recommend that you go and follow Drew. Lone Fox is a great channel. He has excellent content. I love watching it myself. So I'm gonna leave a link in the description box below. Leave him a comment and let him know that I sent you. If you don't know who he is, and this is your first time seeing him, tell him Rebecca sent me. And also be sure to subscribe to his channel. Number 4, how about awkward? Okay, well, I would say that being an island unto yourself is awkward, but so are some of these other placements where a television is just sort of like hanging from a bracket by itself or in a corner, or it's got such a big bracket that it like swoops the whole room, I hope that that bracket allows you to take it back and put it into place, because otherwise it's just awkward. Well, Terry has a beautiful family room, doesn't she? And of course she has a television. Well, I was looking at all this. I was going to recommend that I tell her to do window treatments here. I do think her rug is a pretty good size. Could maybe be a little longer, but you know what really stuck out to me? It's what I'm talking about. This television is just awkward. It looks like it's in a hospital room. Not sure why. Now maybe the TV is on a bracket and it moves back and goes straight against the wall, but right now it's just pulled out. And she also has me on her television, so, you know, we gotta say, Terry, you're doing a lot of stuff right. But just having a TV, and see what happens is, because this is like over here, it precludes her really from doing window treatments. So Terry, your room is beautiful. You have a beautiful home. I think just getting your television to be on the wall rather than in the corner would look so much better and open some opportunities for you to do some other things as well. Carol has a similar situation where she has her TV on a stand, but it's in the corner of the room, halfway covering up her beautiful window and window treatments. I would highly recommend that you consider putting it above your fireplace and maybe painting that wall a dark green like your furniture, or black, or a richer color, because I can tell by the size of this TV it's probably going to extend beyond the size of your fireplace. Number 5. Are your cords showing? Here's the thing about your cords, you guys. Listen, it's a $100 fix. Let me show you the fans' submission photos and tell you how you could fix this for so little money. Don't let $100 stop you from having a beautiful room. One of the things I see is very common is people having their cords showing. And I know that none of you want your cords to show. I mean, that's a given. Some of you use like, you know, the plastic things to put them down a tube or whatever, but there are some very simple solutions. It would require getting someone who's an electrician to come out and put a clock outlet. That's what it's called, a clock outlet. It recesses into the wall and your television can be plugged in there. Any of your equipment can also be connected to that, and it can all be in the wall. I know this because I have this in my own home upstairs in my bedroom. So if there's a way you could get someone out to do that so you're not having to see all of these unsightly cords, because look, your room otherwise is absolutely beautiful, Patty. It's a beautiful room. It's got modern furniture. It looks great. But those cords are a dead giveaway. Tania's got also, I mean, all of you guys have beautiful homes. This is what's so fun for me, to look at these photos and see what you've done. And she's done a great job with her window treatments. Her furniture placement looks great. The one thing I would say is I noticed here with her television, she did something to create a channel for the cords to go down, but it's very, very noticeable. The very least you could do, Tania, is paint this channel the same color as your wall, and then it would be less noticeable. But honestly, as far as televisions go, I'd love to see you either get a piece of furniture to go underneath there or to have this recessed into the wall. And we have another submission. This is Bernadette, and she sent in her living room. I think it's a great looking living room. I love what you did with the slatted wall. That looks awesome. But her television, again, has that same problem with a plastic channel that they've added to cover up the unsightly cords. Here's a good example of how the channel is painted. It's white, right? And the walls are white. So it's less noticeable than it was on the last one I showed you. But even so, the best thing that Bernadette could possibly do is have an electrician come in and install a clock mount outlet behind her television. And that way everything is just hidden and she doesn't have to have this channel showing, because I can tell you, if I was in this room, I would be looking at that every bit as often as I'd be looking at the slatted wood wall, because it's definitely predominant and it draws my attention. Number 6, too high. You know what I'm saying? When I say too high, sometimes I'm just talking about this thing being up close to the ceiling. I mean, that's too high, don't you think? But sometimes it's a matter of the space between where the cabinet is and where the television starts. Take a look here. This is it's not a whole lot of space, but look how nice it looks when that spacing is smaller between the top of your cabinet and the bottom of your television versus having a foot or more between the two pieces. I think too high is pretty obvious. I'm going to show you some of these pictures that were submitted. This one is by Monica. Looks like she has kind of a fun, I would say this is like a sunroom. I don't understand really, Monica, why you guys put the television up almost to the ceiling. There's a little bit of brick showing up here, but for the most part, that's really, really high, and yet your chairs are down here. So I would say, Monica, your television is too high. Move this down. You've got a nice bigger piece of furniture below, so good on you for that. And just lower it down, it'll look better. Same thing with Jill. Take a look in Jill's house. She's got this really long room here, which is awesome. But the fireplace, and I can see why. It looks like there's a fireplace mantle so high that the television nearly touches the ceiling. Now, here's what you can do. You can take this mantle off, take it off altogether, or lower it. And when you do, you can drop your television down. What you do need is at least 12 inches of non-combustible space. So you don't want your television to be any closer than 12 inches above the opening. And that, if it is a wood-burning fireplace, probably more than 12 inches. So if that was the case, I would take this off and I would mount it someplace else in the room, not above your fireplace. I included this in the televisions too high because not that it really is as high as some of the ones I've shown you, but I feel like the amount of space between the top of this electric fireplace and the height of the bottom of the television is just more than it needs to be. If this was dropped down here, I'd get rid of all these tchotchkes and just make it clean and look modern with the rest of your pieces. Just lower that down just a little bit, okay, Gladys? I was struck with a number of things. One, his art pieces. He has art on every single wall. That will be an episode that we cover in the coming weeks. But this one's on televisions. And look what I happened to see up here. I thought this was a piece of art. But then I looked further and saw that actually that's his television. And again, in my opinion, that television is way too high. This could be dropped way down here and be much more easily viewed, more comfortable, and just look like it is well proportioned and fits what it is, which is a TV. Putting it up, it's like having art that's too high. You know what I mean? It's like, whoop, yeah. Just lower it a little bit, Derek, and I think you're gonna like how that looks. That is a very high television. So high that it needs to be adjusted and angled down for people to see it. And that to me, again, this could have been in the lone wolf or the island unto itself category because there's nothing underneath of it, but that is just really high. So I would say if you can lower this down and make it more part of the room on it, this would look a lot better. And by the way, girl, get yourself some window treatments. Mistake number 7. I know that all the men are gonna hate me for this one. And I'm gonna just start this whole mistake out by showing you a clip of Jimson's television. I think I see the part you had to play in this. You said, I want to get the biggest television I could possibly find. I don't think I've seen one that big, have I? But that is one big ass television. I think Scott said that's a 95-inch television. I would call that a media room television, not a living room television. But guess what? A lot of you love your big TVs. And if you do, don't listen to me. Just keep your big old television. I mean, really big. This is actually Todd's place. And I'm wondering if this is maybe a, projected. It's a projected screen. That may be the case. I think it's actually really cool. When you have a television that large, having additional art on the side is overkill, in my opinion. I feel like this is just too much. If you took that away, brought this more to the center of the space, and then ran a large piece of furniture across the bottom, or 2 pieces like what we did in Scott's place, I think that it would better fill out the space in your room, and overall your living room wouldn't just be known as a great place to go watch television, but it would also be known as a beautiful room. Now I'm thinking maybe this was submitted under someone else's email, under Rick's email. It might be his wife that sent this, but this is not a particularly large television, but it's way too large for what they have it in. They are using an old built-in that was originally intended to have a tube television in it. I had that when I lived in San Diego. I had a beautiful built-in back in the day, and then they came out with flat screen televisions, and then they got bigger and bigger and bigger. And I could not get a television any larger than what that opening was, as long as I wanted it to look good and I wanted it to fit in the built-in. In this case, Rick, let's give you a hand. You figured out a way to jimmy rig a huge television in your small built-in. Now, if you love this and you look around your room and you just are so satisfied with how your room looks, then keep it. But my guess is you sent me photos of your place because for some reason you're just not 100% happy with it. I'm here to tell you that either get a smaller television that fits in there, or move this built-in to another room, or move the television to another wall, because this looks really, well, this could go under awkward. This could go under, I don't know, but that is a mistake. I'm just gonna be point blank with you. That's a mistake, Rick. So I hope you can take that friendly criticism kindly, because I'm not trying to hurt your feelings. I'm just saying. There are times when I was working on my clients' projects, this is the Cliff House, where the living room is where the clients, now they have a huge television downstairs and a media kind of room, but they also wanted a large one for their living room, but it was gonna sit atop a fireplace. So I had to deal with what I'm talking to you guys about, and I did a linear fireplace. The television is maybe 5 inches narrower than the fireplace, which is not a lot, but it's enough to give it a little bit more proportion. So if you look at it straight on, you can see here's the edge of the fireplace, and you can see how much available space is left over, and that's true on both sides. But I tell you what, that was challenging. We actually had to have that firebox custom made. Yep. And while I'm at it, let me say, if you would like to have your home submitted to potentially show up in one of these videos, because I think we have 4 now, and there's gonna be 10, so there's still time. Send me an email with photos of your room and your basic, concern, the reason you don't like your room, what it is that you're wondering about, and I will potentially use it in one of these upcoming episodes. Send it to hello@kenwoven.com and put in the topic line, top 10. Got it? Top 10, hello@kenwoven.com. Okay, it is the time of the video where I have to mention the design sessions. The design sessions are a digital-based library of content that we have available to you, whether it's on your computer, through our website, or through an app. It is the #1 best thing that you can do for yourself if you want to make your home more beautiful. This is a really fun series for me. I hope you don't feel like it's critical. I hope you see it as helpful. All right, you guys, I will see you next Thursday at 2 o'clock Central when we have a brand new video up for you. I want you to know I love you, and I'll see you next time.